would be brilliant. Thank you. So good morning, everybody, and welcome. Thank you so much for attending this event. This is the Women's Equality Committee of Bectu hosting our Flexible Working Champions. So we have put this session together because a number of you may have heard of something which we did a little bit of work on during the sort of beginning of the pandemic, something called the New Deal for freelancers. A number of our reps got together and it was very much highlighted about how precarious freelancers were in light of the pandemic, in the fact that they suddenly were without work and without financial assistance. And we had to lobby very, very hard as a union, as well as lots of external organizations lobbying to let the government know that actually there needed to be a support system, because as it turned out, workers were subsidizing the industry and propping up and taking on all the risk. So on the back of that, a number of our reps got together and said, look, we need to plan what we want to see for our New Deal, set some goals, and hopefully in the long term, we can improve the New Deal for get a New Deal for freelancers. One of the goals that we set on that was that we should promote flexible working as a union more. But we didn't want to reinvent the wheel, because we know there's some incredible organizations working really, really hard out there already supporting women, supporting women getting work and supporting women getting work in flexible ways. So we thought we will just simply host these incredible organizations. So we know that there's lots of them, and we have 4 brilliant ones here today with us. Just a little bit of housekeeping. We're going to do an introduction and allow each of our lovely organizations to talk about what they do, and then we will have a Q&A session. Liz is going to pose a few questions to the panel, and then we'll open up for wider Q&A. So we do actually have a Q&A function. So there's the chat. So if anybody wants to have a chat in the corner, then that's great. You can chat with each other, sort of, drop links in if there's anything handy. That's all great. If you have a question, it would be helpful if you can pop it into the actual Q&A section. So if you look down the bottom of your screen, if you're on a PC or laptop, there should be 3 little buttons, or sorry, 3 little dots, the ellipses there. And if you click on that, you should be able to see a Q&A section. If you click on that, then you can pop you can pop a question in there. You can put it in anonymously if you like to, and I can see there's already one. Hello, good morning, Peggy, from Peggy there. So, and then we will endeavor to answer those a little bit later in the program. Okay, so without further ado, let's introduce our lovely panel. We do have our Women's Committee members sitting in the background, so you might see some of them. And if anybody of them wants to say hi and introduce themselves, please do. We've got Caroline Hemmington on the call, who supports the Women's Equality Committee with myself. We've got Liz Hardwick, who's the chair of the Women's Committee and who will be chairing this event. We've got I should do this in order, forgive me. So we've got Amy Shaw from Bectu's Take Two, Bectu Vision's Take Two initiative. Then we've got Anna Inold Daniilov. I've said that terribly wrong, but you'll say it correctly. From PIPA, Parents and Carers in Support in Performing Arts, pardon me. We've got Victoria Emilizi, and sorry, I've butchered that as well, from Primetime, and we've got Michelle Reynolds from Share My Telejob. So Liz, over to you, and welcome everybody.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much, Emily. So I thought it'd be absolutely great to have this session today, because it's almost like, it feels like it's a really bright sunny day outside here in the northwest of England, and it always feels like it's a good topic about flexible working. And the title of this event is Flexible Working Champions, and I think we're all very much trying to actually enable people to have a work life that they love. I think that's always kind of the aim of the game, really, isn't it? So it's a working initiative where actually you can think, I can work my life around it. but also enjoy at the same time. So in the order that Emily's just introduced our lovely panelists for today, as she said, we're going to have 10 minutes from each of them. So what we'd like you to do is, if you have any questions for any of the panelists for their 10-minute sections, please pop them into the chat or the Q&A section. And what I'll do is I'll keep an eye on those and I'll collect them at the end. So we'll have the panelists first, their 10 minutes. So please pop questions into the chat that you want to ask so you don't forget. But what we'll do is we'll come to all of those questions at the end. And if we see that there's some specific ones, you'll also notice you're able to upvote other people's questions as well. So rather than putting the same question in twice, if you just want to click the upvote within the Q&A section, that would be fantastic. So I'm going to hand over to our first panelist for her presentation this morning, Amy Shaw. Hello.
Morning, everybody. Hello. Lovely to see you. Morning. Yes, I am Amy Shaw. I'm co-manager of Bectu Vision alongside Linda Fraser. Bectu Vision is the Scotland-based training arm of Bectu the Union. So we provide a range of training opportunities and short courses for new entrants coming into film and TV, people transferring their skills across from other sectors into film and TV, existing crew who are looking to step up to the next level, and also producers. We focus on creating safer, fairer and greener workplaces. They're our main targets, and obviously today we're kind of focusing on that fairer workplace arena. We're funded by Screen Scotland, Scottish Union Learning, the BBC and Bectu. I was formerly a production coordinator and production manager in scripted film and TV, and then I had children. My partner also works in film and TV in the camera department, and so when I had my kids I wanted to kind of take a bit of a step back from the front line of the intensity of production, and I decided to take a step back and found myself working in the kind of training arena. So I was supporting new entrants on various different training programs, including the Outlander training program. When I was doing that training, I met Linda Fraser, who is also a prolific trainer in Scotland, and a job opportunity came up at Bectu Vision to manage the project. It was advertised and we approached Bectu and Prospect and asked if we could apply as a job share, and they were very open to that. They let us apply as a job share. And when we got the role, they were just fantastic. They said, you know, make the job work for you. As long as you get the work done, we don't mind how you do it, how it works. Linda's also a parent, so we kind of had similar commitments, and we wanted to make sure that we could work around the school hours and those kind of things. So we started the job, loved it. And one of the parts of our work is to go out and visit all the sets that are happening, all the productions that are filming, and get a little bit of insight from the crew as to what training they want and what support they need from us. For the kind of year ahead. And so on our first round of consultation, when we were visiting all the sets, we met so many people from so many different departments that kind of said, oh my goodness, it's amazing, you're a job share, I'd love to job share, that's so fantastic. And they wanted to do it for different reasons, from different departments, new entrants, experienced crew, so many people wanted to do it. But they always finish their sentences with, but it'll never work for my role, or it can never work in film and TV. And we kind of came away from that first round of consultation, we're like, oh, how can we make this work? What's the barriers here? Why isn't this happening for people? We love job sharing. Why can't this happen in film and TV more? So we went away and we met with Sarah Allen from Further and More, and we developed Take Two. So Sarah's a job share specialist. She works across many different sectors. And alongside her, we developed a blueprint for people who are working in film and TV to help them think about job sharing, think about the roles, how they would do it, how they would find a job share partner, how it would work in a production, how to approach those productions, and also guidance for the productions as to how to support people who do job share and what to work flexibly and how to make it happen for them. So we developed a blueprint. We also created a kind of service that's coaching advice for new job sharers. So new job share pairings can get advice on how to work together, how to create CVs that match each other, how to present, how they're going to work to productions. And we also provide coaching for the productions that are employing job sharers for the first time. Because when we did our kind of consultation, a lot of the heads of department, line producers, production managers, their concern was about the risk element that they perceived for having job sharers in place. They didn't know how it would work, they'd never done it before, they were unsure. So we felt if we could kind of be an independent, impartial voice, point of contact for them, then that kind of took away a little bit of the risk element that they perceived. So we launched this at the Edinburgh Film Festival in 2019. We had Share My Telejob on the panel with us. And it was a huge success. And our main goals at first were kind of to advocate and support flexible working and just start the conversation, because it wasn't really happening in Scotland, and it particularly wasn't happening on scripted productions. So that was our main focus. We've held networking breakfasts. During COVID lockdown, we've held online playgroups, which were very chaotic, but a lot of fun. There were a lot of bubbles in individual houses, and a lot of nursery rhymes and madness, and that's something that we're planning to bring into real life when we can. When the restrictions allow, we'll be doing monthly kind of play groups, and that's just an opportunity for parents and carers who are working in film and TV to get together and catch up with each other and feel that network of support, because often when you have a child, you lose all contact with what's happening in the industry, you lose the networking opportunities. So it's there to kind of provide a support and help people move their way back in. And we're also providing training and events for people who want to job share. We just had Share My Telejob last weekend do a fantastic training session for us, which was for people who are interested in job sharing, but also for managers to understand what they can do and how to develop flexible work policies and how to have the conversations. Because a huge amount of what we're doing, particularly in Scotland, is around the skills gaps that we have here. On that call, on the training course that we did, there was a phenomenal group of production coordinators and production managers who have all left the industry recently because, well, not left, but they're currently on maternity leave or they're struggling to get back into the industry because of their childcare commitments. And every day since we've returned from COVID, I think we've had a call about production teams and where can we find production crew? Where are they? What's happening? And when you have a training course like that where you see them all on screen, you see one of the issues and how we can potentially help. So we're massively invested in the skills retention and how we make that happen. And one of our funders, Screen Scotland, is also hugely committed to that. Through the work that we've done over the last kind of 2 years, they've seen what can happen and what can be achieved by retaining skills, by offering flexible working and offering job sharing. So there's going to be a new skills strategy launched by Screen Scotland in the coming months. And as part of the work that we've done, they're going to be including a focus on flexible working and how to support that and achieve that in Scotland, which is super exciting for us. And we're really delighted that they see how important it is and they're making a point of including that in the strategy. So we're just going to continue doing what we've been doing. We've got huge engagement, I think, in Scotland because we've got a kind of smaller production community here. We're very across all the productions that are happening. So we've got connections with all the productions. So we're able to have the conversation with the production managers and line producers when they're crewing up to remember about flexible working, to be considering these options. And we're also engaging with crew to make sure that they realise that we're here to support them and we can offer the coaching, we can offer guidance, we can offer support for anything that they kind of need. And I think it kind of puts us in a slightly unique position because we've got that connection and we've got that small community and we've got Screen Scotland that are so on board. It feels like a really exciting time to be able to promote flexible working, job sharing, just anything that will help retain the skills and make it easier for everybody to continue the careers that they love. It's so unfair that you commit so much time of your life. You miss weddings, you miss key events, you commit everything to 10, 12, 15 years. And then for whatever reason it is that you have to leave the industry. And it's not all about childcare. I know I've talked there a little bit about playgroups and things like that. But as I mentioned, when we went out to do our set visits, this wasn't just parents and carers who were saying they wanted to job share. It was people who were really struggling with this work-life balance. You know, it's so intense. And I think particularly through the kind of advent of HETV and film productions that now film for 8, 9, 10 months a year, it's so intense. It's so much, you know, there's no kind of breaks or allowance for the fact that we're now filming for much longer periods of time. So it's people that were suffering burnout, it's people that had their own personal passion projects that they want to develop. You know, they've come into film and TV as creative people and they've ended up maybe doing a more logistical or technical role, but they still want to develop their own projects and they really see job sharing as a way that they can do both at the same time. So yeah, we're here to support and advocate. And I think in Scotland, we've got a real chance of making an incredible difference, particularly now that the return to work has happened and we've returned to work safely and through all the work that Bectu has done to kind of get us back to working safely. Everyone's now back in work on a film and TV perspective, and they're looking at how they can take the lessons that they've learned from this time of being in lockdown, the flexible working, using Zoom calls, using Skype, using shared documents, all those things that we can help allow people to work flexibly and take the lessons from that and move forward in a more productive way, hopefully, for people that don't want to commit to those hours all the time. So that's a little bit of the kind of background of Take Two and where we're at and what we're hoping to achieve in the years ahead.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Amy. And I think that's really, you know, kind of interesting to hear that, you know, actually there is like the return to work and there's a way to go about that and being able to have the blueprint. You mentioned the blueprint. Emily's already stuck the link to that in the chat. So if people want to download that, it's really helpful to kind of start those conversations, I guess.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Absolutely.
Fabulous. Thank you very much, Amy. We have a couple of questions in the chat, which we'll come to later on in the Q&A section. But next up, we're going to go to Anna. Hello, Anna from Pippa.
Hello.
Hello, would you like to share your kind of overview of what you guys have done so far?
Yeah, so my name is Anna Ilov. It's very difficult to pronounce, so it's absolutely fine. And I'm the co-founder and the joint CEO of Parents and Carers and Performing Arts. So me and Casa, we also have a job share in our role. And we set up 5 years ago, and we work in the performing arts sector, so theatre, music, dance, opera. And really we set up because when we started, there was absolutely no support for parents and carers in the performing arts, or nothing that we knew of. And it was very clear. We hosted like a first sort of meeting to just see if there was any demand for that. It was very clear that we needed it. So as an organization, as PIPA, we support performing arts organizations across the UK, and we help them to implement effective strategies to ensure that they are able to actually attract and most importantly retain their workforce, and that it stays inclusive of parents and carers. Because what we have found from the research that we do is that basically parents and carers leave the sector, or they change jobs within the sector because they find it impossible to maintain their careers. So as I said, so we conduct research, because when we started there was absolutely no data on the parents and carer workforce. Nobody knew if there was even parents working in the arts, or where they work, or how they work, and if they stay. And that underpins everything that we do. We so the way that we set up, we work in partnerships with organizations. We have now, I think, over 70 partners. That ranges from unions like Bectu is one of our strategic partners, as is Equity, the Musicians Union, and membership organizations. So UK Theatre, for example, is one of our partners. So is One Dance UK. And then we also work with the actual theatres and dance and music companies across the UK. And so as a result of our research, we launched our best practice charter a few years ago. I'll put the link in the chat, and that's a set of 10 guiding principles to help the industry to become basically a better and more inclusive workplace. And in there, flexible working is the center of it, really, I would say. And in order to support organizations to achieve the part, or at least to work towards the best practice charter, we designed a framework which we call the charter program. And that helps organizations to embed more inclusive policies, working practices, and also resources to support to basically support their workforce to have a better and more manageable work-life balance, which as you just heard as well, is key for parents and carers. It's key to manage your home life and your work life. Again, flexible working, job share is at the heart of it. And interestingly, when we started 5 years ago, flexible working and job shares in theatre was seen as impossible if it wasn't office based, if it wasn't the HR department or maybe the finance manager. It was seen as something that you cannot do. But now, over the years, with the organizations we work with together and we supported, we're now seeing job shares for stage managers. We've seen wardrobe being supported. We've seen technical departments now including remote working, some of that even before COVID. So you can see that actually when you give organizations a way of doing it, blueprints, that they can learn and implement it. So therefore we developed a whole toolkit to support these performing arts organizations who are working with us, which is full of how-to guides and case studies, because rather than reinventing the wheel and every organization having to start from the beginning saying, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do a job share for these two roles that seem so impossible? Is to learn from another organization how they have done it, from the challenges that they have overcome, from the resources that they need, and therefore help guide them through that process. It's basically a network of performing arts organizations, helping each other and us helping them with the resources that we've got. And we felt that this was important because so many people want it, but organizations don't know how to do it. And when they're scared of implementing job shares or any type of flexible working, including remote working or truncated hours, then they'll say no. It's just it's a fear of the unknown. So trialing it with our organizations or helping them at least consider making their job applications actually say that they're open to job shares and flexible working, so that people don't have to come forward and feel, they're already on the back foot, is one of the first steps. So we conducted a lot of research, as I said, in our, so gosh, it's now more than a year ago, we, together with Bectu, we've done the Backstage Workforce Report, and in there it was quite clear that 95% of respondents said that they have concerns about their work-life balance. And it ranges from everything, mainly around scheduling, around extremely long hours and unpredictable times. That makes it impossible for anybody to manage their work-life balance. And at the same time, people felt not listened to, that their concerns, even when they raised them, weren't taken in, or nothing changed, or they felt that if they say something, that either nothing would change anyway, or that it would negatively impact their career, which is another thing that, the fear of coming forward. And it was interesting because in that Backstage Workforce report, we found that 6 out of 10 women working backstage had to change jobs due to their caring responsibilities. So it shows you that we are losing women specifically because caring responsibilities, unfortunately, still fall on women. We lose them in our sector. So we build up, and then mid-career we lose talent. And in our latest research, which is the COVID research, where we wanted to see the impact that the pandemic, and specifically the lockdown or the shutdown of the performing arts industry had on the parent and carer workforce, we found out that 72% of parents and carers are now considering to leave the performing arts industry. If you think about it, 72%, that's an immense talent loss the performing arts is facing. That's diversity and gender equality gone out of the window. Put in the structures and strategies to support people with work-life balance, because the fear is that coming back is, first of all, you're going to be at the back of a very long queue for jobs, and then only those who can give everything, and I mean everything, in terms of time and strength, will be able to sustain a career. And that's a real danger to the industry. So by now we need to really think of what can we implement to support what we have learned from lockdown, actually, a bit of work-life balance, remote working, job shares, a different job design really than the old-fashioned ways of doing it. Anyway, I'll leave it here. Otherwise I'll go on about this forever.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Anna. And I think it is really great to hear that organisations that you're working with are starting to understand we can't just go back to the way that we were, go back to normal of whatever that was, because actually we've got a great opportunity. As much as COVID's been a nightmare for probably all of us, I think there is ways that we can sort of harness that and think, okay, like, how do we want it to work in future, and hopefully have those conversations. And it's great that both yourself and Amy already have said blueprints, charters, here are tangible things that we can go to someone and say, listen, a big thing for me that any sort of employers I've talked to about this over the years is it has been the fear factor, which is interesting because they just don't know what you don't know. And sometimes they're like, oh no, I'm not gonna have that conversation because we're worried. So great to kind of give some of, the employers' suggestions as well as, kind of the workers as well. Brilliant. Thank you very much, Anna. We've got some questions coming in, so I'll come to you later on. Next up, we've got Victoria from Prime Time. Hello, Victoria. Please share with us why Prime Time is so useful for us in next steps.
Thanks. I mean, just to echo everyone here, it's such an important conversation, and this is the time to be having it. I think, you know, if we look at the statistics from the last year, some bins going on outside, that that women and those with caring responsibilities have been disproportionately affected by this last year. But there are some opportunities around flexibility, and we have sort of navigated a new space and carved out a new space of new ways of working. So I'm really excited to be here and to see all these brilliant women talking about all their incredible organizations and help us all get back to work safely. So my name is Victoria Emsley. I'm an actor and founder of Primetime. So I'm an activist with Time's Up UK and Era 50/50, which we advocate for 50% women in front of the camera and behind the camera. And from my experience with them, to change the conversation of the stories that we see on camera, we really have to change the makeup of the teams that are telling those stories behind the camera. And so that led me to try and answer a question, I suppose, that is asked very frequently within the industry, which is, where are all the women? I don't know if you guys have heard this, but it's one of those excuses that keeps on coming back when, oh, you know, we just didn't have enough women applying for these roles. You get more women applying for them, then maybe the percentages will rise. And my favorite, yeah, which is, where are all the women, which I just think is totally absurd, to be honest. But if you look at our industry, you know, there are many, many barriers to entry to work for women. You know, when we're younger, we're seen as risky. You know, they're mid-career, people might want to take time out to have families, or they have caring responsibilities. And then we just don't see women in the C-suite positions where we really need to sort of affect the change, I think. And so my idea was looking at the data and seeing that actually, you know, when you get women together, women hire more women, people of color hire more people of color, and it's really about changing those conversations, bringing people together. And so I wanted to create a platform where all of the women were, essentially. There isn't this space, there wasn't a place where you could get all the women. And so I decided to bootstrap the business. I put in all of my savings and launched this platform called Primetime, which is a global visibility platform for all of the women working above and below the line behind the camera. So we can finally take the excuse, where are all the women, off the table. Now, we launched at Cannes Film Festival in 2019. We have members in, I think, 55 countries at the moment. Some, you know, have like 1 or 2 members, so I can't really claim that we're in 55 countries, but I do claim that we're in 55 countries. And it's been really exciting and really encouraging my end to see that these conversations are happening everywhere. You know, it's something that everyone is concerned with, and people are wanting to have tools and be able to make actionable change. You know, I don't know how you all feel, but I'm bored of talking. I like action. And so this for me was a very sort of tangible way that at least, you know, the problems to our industry is so multifaceted, but at least by taking one question off the table, it might open the door to further conversations and further blueprints, as you said, further actionable points. And so, okay, what is Primetime? So we are basically, like I said, a global visibility platform for women. We cover over 250 job titles. And if you don't see yourself represented, you email me and I can put you on the site. You know, I want it to be built by the industry for the industry. It's a vetted platform, so our entry criteria is mostly in line with the Guild's entry criteria. You know, you can't fix every bottleneck in one go, and so I really want to focus on the women that are working or have that, you know, experience in the industry. So you sign up, you create your own profile, then you're able to put up CVs, a visual portfolio, essentially a visual portfolio of everything that you've done. You know, put agents details if you have agents. You put your personal pronouns up. You can put up a bio, awards, CVs, kit lists. You know, basically it's your calling card. It's your calling card to get your name, your work out there. We don't have any profile pictures because we know that unconscious bias plays a huge role in hiring practices. And so that was a very conscious decision from my end to just say, well, actually there's these women have brilliant work, and we need the work to speak for itself. And so that was a decision from my end to say, you're going to hire these people with the referees and the testimonials, and you can see the work that they've done, but it's going to be on the work. So what else do? We also we run events, and one of our flagship events are called Primetime Pledge events. So this is an idea that I came up with, which is basically getting those with hiring power to commit to making real change. Last year, I can't believe it was like just over a year ago, that we, with Bectu, we partnered with Bectu, and at the BSC Expo in January, we delivered 260 one-to-one meetings in 2 days, which was, it was a weekend of wildness. And we basically matched those who with hiring power with those who might not have had those introductions, and and we brought them together, and members booked high-end TV jobs, features off the back of those events, and they continue to do that. And we've continued to do that during lockdown. We did one with composers, and a couple of weeks ago, one of my members phoned up and said, she's just had a baby, her first baby. She was honestly considering leaving the industry after this year because it's just been very challenging, sort of, for everyone. And she's like, I just booked a massive Amazon job off the back of one of the events that you did. And so it just shows you that our industry is word of mouth, and it's, it really is. And so it's bringing people who can hire with those who need to be hired, and really creating an ecosystem of support and joining those dots, because there's so many brilliant organizations that are out there doing the work. All of them, many of them are on this call today, and it's about creating those links and sort of raising each other up and supporting each other's work, because that's really the only way we're going to make sustainable change happen, is by working together. Yes, I think, I don't know, someone please cut me off because I'm not very good with timekeeping, but is that 10 minutes? I don't know, but please get involved. I'm going to put my, oh, it's there already. Someone's beat me. So that's how you get involved. Go to primetime.network, and we also feature role models as well, because we know role models are hugely important within our industry. So we feature women at the top of the game, and also across our social media. So if you want extra visibility for the work that you're doing, get in touch, and more than happy to showcase you as well.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Victoria. Bang to time, my love, so well done. There was just a kind of a question that I think you've just answered there, that was part of the conversation, but in terms of the representation on screen as well, is that something that's part of that conversation, isn't it, with the role models, and how you can use sort of social media platforms and things like that to also not only just have these awesome people on this website that people can hire, but then also that kind of further conversation of these people exist, I think, is quite an interesting counteraction to the kind of the where are the women conversation, surely.
Well, absolutely. And I think if you look at like the Call of the Midwife, that series, I think application for midwifery courses went up, I don't know, 20%, I think, just off the back of having extra visibility. And so it's important, the stories that we tell have an intergenerational knock-on effect. And so it's really important to get those right and to change those stories.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Victoria. So last but not least, in our panel discussion this morning, we have Michelle from Share My Telejob. Hello, Michelle.
Hello, how are you? This is so lovely. I'm getting such a kick out of everybody. It's really nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Right, I'll start. So my name is Michelle Reynolds. I am one of 4 women who telly mums who run Share My Telejob. We are a community interest company, which means that any profits we make go straight back into the community that we look after, and our reason for being, I suppose, is to promote job sharing as a practical tool to retain experienced, brilliant talent in the television industry. A little bit of background about me. So I worked as a producer in factual and entertainment television for 17 years. After I had my kids, I was lucky enough to work part-time, but what I found was that part-time working in telly basically means working till midnight and then working for free on your day off while you've got children gnawing at your ankles. So what we promote about job sharing, and I think Amy sort of talked a lot about this, is the fact that when you are not working, when your job share partner is taking the reins, your time is your own. And there are many benefits to this. So we set up about 5 years ago, I suppose. And before COVID, we were doing training for freelancers as to how to find your job share partner, how to pitch yourself, how to problem shoot that relationship as well as coming in and doing training sessions with production companies, you know, how to hire people, very similar to the session I did with Amy last week, you know, how to put in flexible working policies, job share agreements, those kind of really practical, tangible tools that production companies just there's a fear, there's a lack of time to actually look into it. So basically giving them everything so they have no excuse not to do it, basically. So yeah, we were doing this before COVID, but then when COVID kind of happened, suddenly our whole you know, our whole focus on job sharing really kind of came to the fore, because obviously there was an issue with caring. You know, people were homeschooling their children, caring for their relatives, they weren't working, and suddenly job sharing became something that was even more important. We had a number of broadcasters come to us right at the beginning when nobody was working, saying, you know, how can we use job sharing to double the amount of people that we can employ? You know, there aren't that many jobs around, but if we can share each job, then, you know, we're at least giving some people half the amount of money, better than nothing. Before COVID, just the January of 2020, I suppose, Film and TV Charity came out with a survey called the Looking Glass Report, looking at mental health in television and film, and even before COVID, the statistics were shocking, and obviously COVID has not done any favors in that respect. So we also started to look into how job sharing and flexible working can support mental health. And there were numerous studies that showed actually that job sharing is the most beneficial form of flexible working for people with mental health problems. Actually, home working was one of the least beneficial. You know, you have that isolation, you have that lack of division between home and work life. So that was quite interesting. So, but actually, with job sharing, you have that buddy, and I'm sure Amy and Anna as well, if she job shares, can support this. So you have that buddy that you can problem solve with. You can talk to. You know, did you hear that in that conversation? You know, did you get that out of that meeting? Because I thought this. Yes, I did too. Before you refer up to your boss and put yourself into perhaps a slightly more vulnerable position, practically, you know, having a schedule you can stick to as a job share, it allows you to go to therapy sessions. It allows you to go pick up medication. It allows you to go and do a yoga session or something beneficial for you. It allows you to claim a little bit of life back. You know, we all love our industry and we all want to work hard. You know, we do it because we love it, right? But the hours are so extreme. And actually, now that things are starting, you know, we're starting to return to work, some of us, you know, the schedules and the budgets are tighter than ever. You know, we've been through something like 2 years worth of content in 6 months, and that sort of struggle to make stuff. You know, we're getting reports of people coming to us saying, you know, I've worked 21-hour days for the last week. I'm, you know, on my knees. And people coming to us who would never have considered flexible working before, kind of going, actually, my back is knackered. I've been sitting in front of my screen editing, you know, 22 hours a day. this is not, they talk about what we've been doing, this home working and this lockdown kind of flexible working, as bad flex. This is something that's kind of, and I think it's very important that we don't confuse what we've been doing with flexible working. You know, this is something that was imposed on us. There was no structure. There was nothing. Nobody had thought about how this would actually work. And as a result, yes, there have been some great benefits. And I think the biggest benefit is it's opened employers' minds up to the fact that you can do your job from home, and all those arguments that they would say to women at home with kids or disabled people, no, sorry, you can't do this job at home. We can see that that is clearly not the case. However, when we're looking back to returning to work, we have to work out how we can do this healthily. I know a lot of people, I think there was a recent survey coming out, something like 60-70% of people want to return to work but still work at home 2 or 3 days a week. I think this hybrid, chat about hybrid working, and I think that's something very valuable. But I think we also need to look at the hours that we're putting in, and that's something that we are doing at Share My Telejob. We just today, which is very exciting, we launched something called the Time Project, which is currently for people working in television. We hope that one day we can do it for people working in theatre, because I think a lot of the problems are the same. Basically, the Time Project is a way to track your hours that you're doing, and also seeing how much unpaid overtime you're doing. I think at the moment the industry is very much relying on how much we love our jobs, how grateful we are to work in this industry, but that gratitude means we're also open to exploitation. And I think that it's really important that by logging your hours, and you'll also be able to sort of compare your hours to other people who do your job and in your department, and also see how much you are gifting to your employer for free, will allow us suddenly to kind of really get a grip on where this overwork is, who is carrying the burden of overwork, and how that's affecting the diversity of our workforce, the mental health of our workforce. So yes, that's very exciting. We're all about, and I think actually everybody on this call is about providing practical solutions to this issue. You know, I'm as good as anybody at sitting and shouting and howling into the wind, but I think when you want change to happen, you have to give practical solutions. So like a lot of my friends here, we provide blueprints and case studies, and really kind of show people actually that it's not such a scary thing. And in fact, in television, a lot of people are already employing job sharers, but they don't even know it. If you employ people who work shifts, you're employing job sharers. If you're employing two teams, like an A crew and a B crew or whatever, you're employing job sharers. Anywhere where information needs to pass from one person to another is a form of job sharing. So it's not that scary. And there are many ways that you can suit a job share to your role, to your project, whether that is your job sharing by filming block, or your job sharing by location. You can split a day in half potentially, or you could work alternate days. There are lots of different ways to do it. So it's all about kind of working out what works for you, being flexible, but also, and your employer also being flexible. And that's the way it can work out. When it comes to employing people who want to job share, we partner with a company called the talentmanager.com, which is a place where a lot of companies advertise their jobs in factual and entertainment television. They now have, brilliantly, a place where you can tick that you are a job sharer. You can meet other job sharers, and you can apply for jobs jointly, which is really nice, because it means that the employers aren't having to go somewhere else to find those people. It's all in the same thing. Having said that, you can also meet job share partners, potential partners, on our website, which is sharemytelejob.co.uk.com. I think I'm sort of blabbering on a bit now, but I would just like to say that, and I said it before we came on the call actually, that having people like Amy and Anna and Victoria we all kind of amplify each other's voices on Twitter and on the social media and that kind of thing, and it's a source of great strength to have these kind of, I see you guys as colleagues, and also to have the support of Bectu. Bectu have done brilliantly supporting the Time Project, and I think it's a great thing to have this. Anyway, that's the end.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Michelle. So, thank you for those sort of presentations, because I think it's nice to get sort of snapshots with a common theme around, how to engage with the whole concept of flexible working a lot more. Michelle, I'm going to come straight back to you just to answer a question. So you've almost sort of touched on it already. We've got a question from the audience this morning, and it's around how do we find someone to job share? So you mentioned you mentioned your website there, fantastic, and the talent manager one. Is there any more sort of other options? Are there any suggestions that you could kind of just add on to how else might we be able to find a job sharing partner?
Absolutely. I mean, and I'm sure Amy can contribute to this as well, but I think, there are rare cases where an employer might know of somebody who's also looking to job share and match you up. But I think it's more useful if you come as a pair. And what we actually always say is that you don't have to be monogamous with your job share partner. You can have a polyamorous situation, and actually there's a load of benefits to that. One, it means your career isn't tied to somebody else, because who knows what's going to go on in that person's life. But also it means that you can kind of mold your offering according to the job you go for. So it might be, for example, I had a lot of entertainment experience, but if I was going for something that was slightly more of a sort of factual documentary, I could find a job share partner that had that kind of more factual experience. And together you're kind of more than the sum of your parts. I would really think, if you're first starting to think about who you could job share with, just think back to who you've worked with in the past that you clicked with, somebody that you respected, somebody that you like their work. Now's the perfect time to be in touch. We're all sitting here. You can have 10 Zoom coffees a day, and just chat with people, because if you were at that same level then, you're probably hitting that sort of same level mid-career where you're going, there's got to be more than this. So call those people up. I would say big things are, you can have different kinds of experience, but I think it's really important to be at the same level of experience. I think it doesn't work if one person's mentoring the other person, because the person who's less experienced does not feel empowered to make the decisions. And also, inevitably, there will come a point where your job share partner doesn't do what you would have done, and you go, "Ooh, I wouldn't have made that decision." But if you respect that person, and you can say to yourself, but that person's experience and decision is equally as valid as mine, and I need to back that person up because we're a team, then that's great, and you can move ahead. So I think that power dynamic and that level of trust is really important. Amy, I don't know if you would agree with that.
Yeah, totally agree with what you're looking for in your partner. It's got to be somebody that is at a similar level of experience. And I think when you're looking for the person, it's a little bit of an odd scenario, because you kind of have to go a little bit out your comfort zone and put yourself out there a little bit and say, I want to job share, I want to work flexibly. Because quite often, if you're working as so many roles in film and TV, there's only one of you on each production. So often you're not meeting people that are at a similar level to you or a similar role. So it's very much about publicly saying, I want to job share, and getting in touch with people who, like Michelle was saying, that you've come across or you've got connections with, and letting them know. Because so often, and this is what we've really come across, is that it's not people that you necessarily think would want to job share are actually the people that are looking for the opportunity. Really useful to utilise Facebook groups as well. I know that Share My Telejob, we've got one for Take Two, where you can put a post up saying, I am a coordinator, I'm an editor, and I'm a costume assistant. I'm looking to job share, let me know if you're interested. And doing that work, before you're even looking for a job, anytime, just starting to make those connections. And as Michelle was saying, do the Zoom coffees, hopefully doing in-person coffees very soon. But that kind of side of things is really important, putting yourself out there. And we're also looking, when we come back and kind of after the Easter holidays, potentially setting up a register in Scotland where people can log themselves for who they are and the job role that they are, so that it's kind of taking away that barrier a little bit. Because I know that sometimes people do feel a little bit uncomfortable publicly putting themselves out there to say that this is what I'm looking for. At the moment, they kind of feel like they want to sort of maybe do it slightly more under the radar. So we're looking at ways where we can have a register, and if 2 production managers both register, we'll put them in touch with each other and say, you're both interested, you're both at the same level, why don't you have a chat? We can host the chat, you know, that kind of side of things, just to, again, move the process forward a little bit and help people progress. But I think using the Facebook groups, using your connections, it has been a little bit bold though. You do have to kind of put yourself out there, raise your flag, put it up there saying, I'm a job sharer, I'm a flexible worker, I want to find someone who wants to do it too. Because then that's how the conversation will start. I think those are kind of my top tips for it, I think.
Brilliant. Thanks, Amy. And I guess if I go to Anna for a second, there's a question in the chat around, are there any sort of scenarios where job sharing doesn't work? We've got a hair and makeup artist as an example. You know, are there scenarios where it feels like actually it wouldn't work? So if you've got a theatre, maybe costume, similar sort of prep and wrap type, is there anything that, you know, would be a barrier to that?
I'm sure if you dig deep enough, you can always find the barrier.
To use as an excuse, right?
I mean, not everything is as straightforward. I think that's what we need to keep in mind. And sometimes, so what we have found is that actually, we had a wardrobe example, funnily enough, that they were thinking they're going to go for a job share, but what they ended up doing was a job split. So rather than saying, actually, it's the same job and we're both doing the same thing, only I'm doing it on this day and you're doing it on that day, what they found out is actually it made much more sense to, even although they're obviously splitting time, to actually say, I am responsible for this and I'm responsible for that. There's a little bit of crossover, of course, like in every department, we all work together, we're all a team in theatre. But it then made more sense to say, it is better if we split that job and make it a role in itself. And I think that is quite often an answer as well, to kind of go back into the actual role and to say, like, why are we looking at this as a job share? So the person, obviously from the person's who want to do the job share, from the person's point of view, it might be something about time and about workload, but also from the organization's point of view. Have you actually designed here a role that asks for too many hours? If you really look at this, like I love the idea of looking at the overtime of what we're actually giving, because I think all of us are. And I think, Michelle, it's brilliant I will try it out myself actually, to track that. Because when you then really look at it and you see that the job is over designed, it's just too much for one person to carry. So when you say, okay, this is not practical as a job share, maybe it is practical in a very different way as in a job split. Or you look at different ways and you say, maybe it is not. So what we've seen is truncated hours, truncated rehearsal hours, for example, rather than using still the long rehearsal time and then trying to split it, is to say, no, we can achieve the same in a much more focused and concentrated time. So we can go home earlier, or we arrive later, give people the chance to either pick up children or to drive back home, or whatever it is that they need to do, or to just go to the bank in the morning and, you know, get that appointment in. So I think it's something about job designs, instead of just saying split a job in half and share it.
Michelle, you want to come in on that one?
Absolutely, and I think it's a brilliant point, Anna, because you can also split or share a job according to your strengths. And this is something that I've been talking a lot with people. There's a group, a neurodiverse people in television group, and we've been talking about how you can really get the best out of anybody, but this is particularly about neurodivergent people, of which there are many in television. And actually, if you can split a job by your strengths, so perhaps one person is, you know, it's got all the energy, it's great on the phone, great with contributors, but actually couldn't run an Excel spreadsheet to save their life. You know, you can split also by your strengths. So that's also quite interesting when you're looking for a job share or job split partner, is to look how your strengths balance each other, and you can create the whole package. When we were talking about, I think you were mentioned a makeup artist. I was actually talking to a friend of mine. She is a makeup artist on a very big high-end TV show, and she's just had a baby. And obviously makeup, they tend to be the first person on set and quite often one of the last people to leave. So we were talking about, you know, is there a world where you could one person could be on set at 5 in the morning, go through till lunch, hand over all the continuity stuff, and the other person takes it to wrap. Now, obviously, I think the big fear, especially in drama, is that continuity, is that handover. How can you do that? So I think having two people on right from the beginning to create the makeup looks together, so you have a joint design, and then making sure that that handover is seamless. I think this is, because there are brilliant things like Wonderworks have a nursery on set, or they have a bus that goes to locations and stuff, which is great. But if you're a makeup artist, you don't want to be dragging your kid at 5 o'clock in the morning to go and sit on a bus. Potentially, maybe you do, so yeah, just looking at other ways that maybe you might be able to make it work for you, because obviously makeup and wardrobe, there are a lot of women sort of in their 30s there, and we shouldn't be losing that talent again.
Brilliant. So some great ideas of how it's not just about hours and about splitting those hours up and having, there's other ways to do that. And we've got a question in the chat. I'm going to come to Victoria next. In terms of, okay, maybe we're not parents. Actually, maybe we're the mature, experienced operators and skilled staff that we've all been mentioning this morning. How would you suggest, we support the sort of the maturer, experienced person that maybe doesn't want to do crazy hours, and we've also got someone who has a fixed amount of time, maybe several months. I think Michelle mentioned that before, around working 8 months a year and then wanting to have the time off. Is there anything around that you could share?
Well, I think this year has proven to us where our priorities lie and how we can prioritize things. So I think it's about having honest, clear conversations. It's about setting your boundaries, about being clear about what you want to do, and then being sort of firm about that. I guess, people respect honesty, people respect you setting boundaries, because everyone needs to set boundaries, especially at this time. So I mean, in terms of, Liz, was the question around returning to work, or was the question, could you elaborate a little bit more on whether?
Yeah, so I think it's just flexible working for non sort of child people or carers, really. Other options are available, I think. And also I guess I came to you with that as well, because it's that sort of unconscious bias again of, the older woman, oh right, yeah, she's not going to be able to stand up and do all the hours that are anticipated. And so I guess your platform then slots in really nicely because of that kind of unconscious bias option, I guess, with your platform.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what I didn't mention earlier, because I was just running away with myself, was that we do have such granular searches on the site. So if you do want to find an editor who's worked on high-end TV or comedy, then you can find them through these searches. And so really, it doesn't matter the age, it doesn't matter the background, as if the experience is there and skills are transferable as well. There are going to be loads of people that have worked in TV that want to go to features and vice versa, and it's sort of about enabling these people to meet. And like I said, I'm very happy to showcase, women at any stage in their career. If you want to be showcased and you remember, then just drop me a line, and with the work and with a thing that you want to talk about as well. I think it's really good to have these open discussions. Visibility for many different women is, we're not even there yet. And so I think having conversations around, women who are, at a different stage in their career and highlighting them is also something that's really important. Yeah, Michelle, I can see you.
We're running out of time, ladies, I'm afraid.
We can go over a few minutes if we want, but I know, Victoria, you've got to leave at 11. So maybe we put like a little bit of a cap on it.
Maybe
I think we're having such good conversations.
I'm going to make a really good point about And so if you want to retain female talent through the mid-career into those kind of high levels, you have to provide flexible working. You have to provide flexible working for menopause. It's a really important thing. Also, with drama, I know there's so much being created and there's such a lack of experienced talent. I know Sarah Putt, who's an agent, was really excited about this idea of job sharing, about bringing back experienced talent that maybe don't want to work those long hours, but that really, you know, that older talent is, you know, is so valuable. And so if you want to keep that experience and those and to keep people of an older age in our industry, you have to provide flexible working. Sorry.
So just a quick question on that, maybe Anna or Michelle might want to answer this, but there's a couple of questions around, is it the sort of the worker employee's responsibility to find the job share, or is it something that you can go to a job, you know, opportunity and chip into? Amy might want to answer that as well. Amy?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's better to find your partner and present as a job share pairing, because if you kind of put that emphasis on the employer or the head of production or whoever it is, it presents more of a problem for them because you're only coming with part of the solution. So if you can come as a job share pairing who have already worked out how you're going to split your time, how it's going to work, highlighting the benefits, and I know we've just been talking about it there, but you know, if you're two people mid-career, you're bringing 40 years experience rather than 20 each. You know, you're bringing so much experience, you've worked across different productions, you've got different contacts, all those kind of things. Presenting that as a package is much more appealing to an employer than you coming and saying, I really want a job share, but I can only do these hours, so can you fix the other bit of the problem for me? So yeah.
And I think that also sort of goes some way to answering another one of the questions of how do you almost sell it to an employer or an engager? Because you know, it's great benefit for us maybe, but how do we, you know, sort of work that around? Anna, do you want to take that one?
Yes, I think, yes, it is easier to come as a job share partner. Absolutely, there's no question about it. But it's also important to mention it when you don't have a partner. Like, don't get yourself out, because there might be somebody else who applied for this position exactly the same, saying, I don't have a partner, but I'm really interested in doing this in a job share. So I just wanted to say, like, it's really important to keep saying it to employers. I'm interested to do that as a job share. In terms of selling it, I think right now in COVID time, the biggest selling point is that you've got instant cover, because it's nothing to do with childcare. I mean, it's got a lot to do with childcare, but any one of us might have to isolate at any minute. And if you're in the middle of a production, imagine that, like opening night, and you know, your main people who are running the show cannot come because they have to. There is no way they're not allowed to leave the house. You've got instant cover, so that is number one, the instant cover. The second one, I think, has been mentioned over and over, is the you get 2 for 1. You get more experience. You can get 2 different skill sets. Nobody can cover everything, so it's actually really good to have somebody who's, I think the example before was good in Excel sheets, and the other one is really good in communications. It doesn't matter. And I think the third thing that I wanted to bring in, we were talking about retaining older talent or more experienced talent, but actually what we have also seen in the examples that we had was that a job share supported somebody to step up in a role. So a more experienced job share partner actually allows then another one to somebody else to step up to the role. So in stage management is a very classic thing of actually, you know, you're not just learning the book, you're actually stepping up to take on another position, or in wardrobe to take. It's just a learning tool for somebody, for maybe when you don't split the week in completely half, but you say, why don't you take the matinees, or why don't you take the weekends? And that actually helps somebody to gain experience in a role that they want to step up to. So it's also a building tool for talent. I think that's really important.
And I think there's a question here for you, Anna, as well, in terms of quite a specific scenario around the SALT agreement. So some Bectu members will understand what that means, but about adding in Sundays and that kind of that flexibility of if it's coming back into COVID times and they're going to reopen, that they might have Sunday performances moving forward. So is there a kind of a thought process around people in that sort of position where you might be flexible working, but actually they're sort of adding on extra days with that as well?
It is. I know this is one of the major concerns right now with the involuntary weekend time, let's put it like that, because weekends are so difficult, because those who have partners at home might be able to have some cover, but not everybody has that network to support with childcare, and it's incredibly expensive to cover care in that time. So absolutely, it's something that we I don't have a solution at hand right now, but it's something that we are talking to Bectu obviously about, we're talking to our organizations about, and I do think that flexibility in here again, like using that model, saying I'm not doing every Sunday, but if we build in that it's every second Sunday or weekend shifts, I think is really like we do normally with shifts. My partner is a technical manager in the West End, and the only way to do this job is through shifts. He can't be there from morning till the end of the show every day. So obviously there's shifts. So it's the same thing here. We just need to look at money so that people can afford to stay in the industry. I think that's the key point.
And I guess also it's a question in the chat as well, but around being on call or available and not necessarily being at work, but having, and I guess that's part of that negotiation as well in terms of sort of contract and money. That feels like that would be the natural place to have that conversation around on-call systems, and if you're having to work last minute and having that sort of process in place. And someone's phrase in the chat so that it's neediness is removed from the system, and I think that's that. It goes back to that that right to disconnect. So when you aren't at work with your job share, that is your, Michelle said it before, that is your time to then do whatever else life is, and that it's not work. There's only certain scenarios where that might be an emergency, but if you've done a really great handover with your job share partner, you would think that actually you probably wouldn't necessarily need to do that often. Brilliant. Okay, Emily,
we just had a question as well, asking about prime time, if they do theatre and live events as well. So I just thought, if you've got a quick second, Victoria, if you might.
Yeah, go for it, Victoria.
Just typing you an answer.
I wasn't sure if you had to dash, so I was like, oh. We'll
yes, I do. But yes, we do have some members that cross over into theatre and live events. If you go to the website, it has all of the entry criteria, which is probably the best way to sort of find out. And my email address is on there as well, so you can drop me any direct questions as well. Okay. Thank you so much for today.
Fabulous. Thank you, Victoria. Okay. So I think we've got a couple of instant questions that I think people can just answer before we wrap up. One of them is there something similar to Take Two in England? Amy, do you want to mention that and point to Michelle? And Michelle, do you want to just take that straight away?
I don't know where Michelle is on my screen, but yeah, I would say that Share My Telly job is pretty much our equivalent.
Yeah, get in touch. We look after telly in scripted and unscripted, and we're very much in line with what Take Two, Bectu Vision do. So yeah, happy to get in touch via our website. It'd be lovely to hear from you.
And is there a mentoring thing going on? Do I recall from a conversation that we had, Amy and Michelle, or did I make that up in my head?
I don't know. Not so far as I know. We've got all kinds of programs on their way, but not necessarily mentoring.
Okay.
But we're certainly working with Film and TV Charity. We're working with Bectu, and we're working kind of pulling in different kinds of programs. So yeah, there's lots of stuff going on. Somebody just mentioned, I can see Telemums Network on the Facebook. They've got a Facebook group and they're building a website. If you're a mum in telly, definitely check them out. They're doing mentoring through Screen Skills as well, I think.
Fabulous. Well, we've run out of time, so apologies if we haven't had your question answered this morning. But what I'd like the panel just to finish off in a sort of 30-second summary. I'd like you to answer this question of, okay, I'm starting to think about wanting to do job share. I don't know where to start. where would you recommend? So I'm going to go in the order of presentations that we did this morning. So Amy, can I come to you first?
I would say first steps, taking the organisations that have been on this call today. They're all doing phenomenal work, and there's a whole load of resources out there. I think once you start to explore it a little bit, you'll find out how much work is being done and how many resources are being produced from all different sectors. So I would say that would be a first point of call, to engage with the organisations that are on here, and from there you will see all the links to the other organisations that are also doing fantastic work, and it's a massive network out there, and there's incredible articles, there's case studies, there's so much content to read about it. I think that would be my first steps from today.
And I think what I've really loved listening to you all speak today is actually how interconnected you all are with each other, and referring, you know, one kind of person to a different organisation if it's not right, for you to help them, and vice versa. And I think that's a really nice sort of collective supportive environment to be in. Anna, I'm going to come to you next. Same question.
Yeah, I think it's similar. I think it's about if you're thinking about it, that means that there is a reason why you want to do it. So find out what you want, what you are actually looking for here. Why is it that you want to split or share? And then build your case. Build what it is that, you know, why it is good, why is it positive. Don't think of the negatives. Think of why is it good. Build the case, and then I would say, you know, reach out. You know, find people, find partners.
Perfect. Brilliant. Thanks, Anna. Last but not least, Michelle.
I would say look at your network. Now's the perfect time to reach out to people that you've worked with in the past that might be interested in working with you. Also, talk to companies that you've worked for before. You know, they know how good you are. They need to trust that you will bring somebody equally good in with you. I think that's the best way to start, get your first job share going, is to speak to companies who already know and trust you and know the quality of your work.
Fabulous. Ladies, thank you very much for joining us this morning. It's been really insightful, and it's great to kind of have, you know, instantly take away tips to, you know, kind of think about what next steps might be, and if people are interested in, you know, sort of jumping on the journey of flexible working or job sharing as well. Brilliant. Emily, do we have any final words we need to mention?
I do know that we've got a hand up. I wasn't sure if because it was from Trisha. I wasn't sure if she wanted to pop something in the chat or not.
I missed that. Sorry.
But oh, it's gone now. But I'm going to pop some more links in. So if people want to stay on for another minute or two, they can. I'd just like to say that we're going to send out the links that we've shared today to all these wonderful organizations. And ladies, if there's anything specific that you want us to share around to the people that have attended today, please just let me know. I wanted to say a very, very heartfelt thank you so much for your time, not just here today, but in general for what you are doing for people in our industry. It's incredible, and it's absolutely needed, as we all know. So thank you very much. We will hopefully do similar sessions like this again at some point in the future as the Women's Committee. So hopefully some of you be back, and we might get some new organizations too as well. Right, okay, thank you very much, everybody, and we will say a final couple of goodbyes. If anybody wants to pop anything in the chat, you can, and we'll slowly peter off and go back to our day jobs. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks, Amy. Thanks, Michelle.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.